Today's show featuring the best conversations and interviews from our show, Hello Houston. Coming up this hour in the Best of Hello Houston, Ernie Manu, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley talk with former Houston Mayor Anise Parker about her return to politics. We'll also talk to the director of the Houston Parks Department, Kenneth Allen, about some hidden treasures around the city. And then you'll hear Ernie talk with resident Alien star Sarah Tomko. And just a quick reminder, you can listen to our live Hello Houston show weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on News 88.7. If you have any comments about Hello Houston or this Best of program, please text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Tribute to the King of Zydeco. It's Sunday, June 29th. News is next.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. The Senate is in session all weekend to consider the multi-trillion-dollar tax cut and spending bill that reflects much of President Trump's domestic policies. It would cut taxes, mainly benefiting wealthier taxpayers, while cutting spending programs that help lower-income Americans, such as Medicaid. Republican Senator Katie Britt told CNN those programs must be restructured.
We are spending at a rate that we cannot continue. And ultimately, that means that these programs would one day be insolvent for the very people that need them. We're trying to make structural reforms that make these programs stronger and make them be able to actually last and be there for the people who need that assistance.
Also on CNN, Democrat Mark Warner says people will be hurt.
All these cuts, all this cutback on health care, to provide the wealthiest in our country a disproportionate share of tax cuts, that just doesn't seem fair. And the more we can get that out, I think this will be a political albatross.
The legislation cleared a procedural hurdle late last night on a largely party-line vote of 51 to 49. All the Democrats and 2 Republicans voted no. Debate on the measure is expected to begin this afternoon with a final vote tomorrow. Investors in Wall Street are gearing up for the latest employment data out this week. The report comes amid concerns that the labor market will slow. NPR's Rafael Nam has details.
One of the positive aspects of the U.S. economy has been the solid labor market. Despite a number of uncertainties like what's going to happen with tariffs, U.S. employers have continued hiring for the most part. But there are concerns this could change and that employers will start getting skittish about the outlook for the economy. Investors also remain unsure of how the layoffs across the federal government will impact the nation's overall employment picture. That's why the jobs report this week is an important one. It's out on Thursday, the day before the July 4th holiday. Rafael Nam, NPR News.
The Ukrainian Air Force says Russia launched the largest aerial attack on Ukraine since the beginning of the full-scale invasion in 2022. NPR's Joanna Kakissis reports from Kyiv.
In a statement, Ukraine's Air Force said Russia attacked using 537 drones and missiles. It says about half were shot down and the rest disappeared from Air Force radars. One of Ukraine's F-16 fighter jet pilots was killed trying to shoot down the drones and missiles. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky wrote on social media that Russia had launched nearly 2,500 drones, missiles, and guided air bombs at Ukraine in the past week. Representatives from Ukraine and Russia have met twice in Istanbul for ceasefire talks, but have only agreed to a series of prisoner exchanges. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News, Kyiv.
This is NPR News in Washington. The head of the UN's nuclear watchdog says the U.S. strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities were a significant setback for Iran's nuclear program. But Rafael Grossi told CBS one cannot claim that everything has disappeared. Grossi said Iran is a very sophisticated country in terms of nuclear technology and could be producing enriched uranium in a few months. Britain's government is enlisting supermarkets and food manufacturers to tackle what British health authorities are calling the country's obesity epidemic. Vicky Barker reports from London.
As part of a 10-year plan aimed at reducing pressure on the National Health Service, major food retailers and supermarket chains will agree to targets aimed at bringing down obesity rates. That could include everything from changing store layouts to make healthier options more accessible to offering promotions on healthy food. The British government says cutting just 50 calories a day could help lift 340,000 children and 2 million adults out of obesity. Past such voluntary partnerships in the UK have had mixed success. In part, researchers say because most unhealthy food is purchased at convenience stores, which won't be part of the scheme. For NPR News, I'm Vicki Barker in London.
Legendary Pittsburgh Pirates outfielder Dave Parker has died. He played 11 of his 19 Major League seasons for the Pirates and was to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame next month. Dave Parker was 74. I'm Nora Rahm, NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Council for Interior Design Qualification, whose certified designers work to protect occupants through the design of code-compliant and accessible environments. Learn more at cidq.org/NPR.
The best of Hello Houston on News 88.7 with Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Former Houston Mayor Annise Parker announced her political comeback as she will run for Harris County Judge. The next election for Harris County Judge will not be on the ballot until 2026, but is already shaping up to be an interesting race, particularly in the Democratic primary, as Mayor Parker will face off against, it seems, incumbent Judge Lena Hidalgo. Hidalgo was first elected to the county chief executive in 2018. She told Houston Chronicle last year that she plans to run for a third or even a fourth term. So let's get right to it. Mayor Parker, welcome to the program.
Thanks. Glad to be back in the studio. I've been here quite a few times over the years. So let me just say, I'm a listener sponsor, and everybody who's listening ought to be sending money in. So
that's right.
Well, thank you for
public
that.
Media.
Okay, today you made big news by deciding to re-enter the arena. What led to this decision?
I'll give you the tongue-in-cheek version, which is I've been retired for 3 months and too much time on my hands.
Yeah, Frank had the same problem when he came back, too.
I know how that feels.
But the serious thing is I must have spent my entire adult life in some way or another in service here in Harris County as a community volunteer, as a public official, and I am scared about our future. And considering the fact that we have chaos in D.C. and a continuous drumbeat of attacks on local government from the state, we at the local level have to step it up and have to be prepared. And the things that county government is responsible for: public safety, public health, flooding through flood control. There's all going to be a big void or a big gap, if not outright assaults coming at us from Washington. We're on our own. We have to step it up. We have to do better in all of those things. And I also know that there's a generalized anxiety of folks who are concerned that the county's getting more and more expensive and it's harder to live here. So it's not a direct function of county government, but we have to figure out ways to get more housing starts on the ground.
Mm-hmm. So I assume you have concerns with the current direction the county's going, or you wouldn't be in this race.
I have greater concerns with the way our country is going and our state is going, but everything rolls downhill and it is coming at us. And I think that I don't. You preface this by saying I was going to be running against the incumbent. I have no idea whether the incumbent's running or not. I think what we need at this moment is absolute certainty. And I'm standing and saying to the residents of Harris County, I am running. You know me. You've seen me work. I have the skill sets. I have the experience. I can do a good job with this job. Trust me. Let me do it.
So, Mayor Parker, you talked about county government and what they oversee and what you would be overseeing. And you mentioned multiple things: public health, safety. What would be your priorities? What would be your top priority if you came in and were the Harris County Judge?
So the fundamental difference between running the city of Houston and Harris County is that there are independent elected officials who are over these various functions. And it's not, I'm quite aware that it's not mayor. His mayor was all large and in charge. And this is an opportunity to work collaboratively with other elected officials who have to do the work. But the things I mentioned that I reeled off, those are my priorities. And you can't say law enforcement is more important than public health, is more important than flooding. And in fact, the one that there really is no substitute for Harris County and the work of the Flood Control District is keeping water out of people's homes. Because if you're not safe if there's water coming in your house. And we have been falling behind on the commitments that we made to the citizens for the money they've been giving us to do these flood control projects.
You know, we've already got a YouTube comment saying you're the first openly gay mayor of a major U.S. city, considers you an icon. You've also been heading up Victory Fund, which tries to get gay people elected across the country. And this is our question. Where is your funding? Are you going to reach out to those avenues for funding? Where's your funding going to come from for your run here?
The bulk of my funding is going to come from right here in Harris County and the broader region. But yes, I also have a national fundraising network. It supported me in my runs for mayor, and it will support me again. But if most of your money comes from outside the region, I think that's a problem. I'm going to raise a lot of money for this race. I'm not. That's not something that I'm worried about. One of the things that the 7 years that I led Victory showed me, I won't say I was discouraged about politics. I loved my opportunity to serve. But the first Donald Trump administration came after I was out of office, and was part of why I went to work for Victory. And working with entry-level candidates across the country, we only work with LGBT candidates, but it's every level of the ballot, every part of the country. So these people, city council, school board, mosquito control board, water board, these are people who are just wanting to serve their community. And I had the opportunity to refocus on what matters in politics. And it's not the chaos and the vitriol that's coming out of Washington. It's people who want to serve and do the right thing and just make life better for their neighbors. And after 7 years of seeing that and hearing that and helping promote that, then coming home and having an opportunity to clear my mind, it was, I want to do this here in Harris County. I still have the passion, but I also have the skills. And I think those are needed.
Talk to me a little bit about what was the conversation like in the Parker Hubbard household leading up to this announcement.
I have the best political spouse you could possibly have. 34 years together, and 11 political campaigns. This will make 12.
Wow.
She has never once said, "Why are you spending so much time at those meetings? Why are you gone so much?" Never once. She just quietly picks up the slack and makes sure that the trains run on time at the house.
Any concern?
Now, the kids are not.
That's what I was going to go next. So they're like, "Ma, why are you doing that?"
Our youngest is 30, so these are like kids.
Yeah.
We have 6 grandkids.
Where'd that time go?
But that's also another. I mean, they know. I'm looking at my grandkids. The youngest is a month old, and the oldest is 7, and saying, "What kind of county are we leaving them?" They all live here, and I want to work for them too. They're less excited because I'm the primary babysitter among us. So.
Let's talk about the political landscape, 2010 versus now. Barack Obama, our first black president, you would come off of being the controller, and really we were in a huge financial mess across the country, so we needed a controller. And the fact that you were out and proud was, I think, in your favor.
More nationally than locally. I'd already been elected 6 times by the time I became mayor, and Houston was like, "Oh yeah, we know who she is."
Right. That's true. Right. But now, we have state legislators that are going to try to put the 10 Commandments on the school walls and are going to get rid of gay-straight alliances in our schools. And of course, we've just heard from the Southern Baptists who want to do away with gay marriage. So the landscape, let's face it, is different.
So I just left 7 years of leading an organization that has helped elect LGBT candidates every part of the country. The right candidate in the right place with the right message, all of that falls away. Voters want to know that you understand their lives, that you have a commitment to doing what's right. And frankly, there's that the conversation where people, for a lot of people, where they say, "Oh, you're LGBT. I don't approve of that. I don't support your lifestyle." Whatever they say, they also say, "But you're honest about that. You're going to be honest about everything. And what I want is somebody I can depend on, even if I don't agree with you." And I'm not worried about that.
And something that you mentioned was how voters and people within Harris County do want good infrastructure and drainage, and that is a big issue that we know. What are you going to do from a long-term strategy to actually follow through with real change when it comes to infrastructure and drainage? Because I think a lot of people often in the political realm, when we look at Harris County, when we look at Houston, use that as a platform. But yet here we are again, like you said yourself, people are still experiencing flooding within their house.
So, let's be realistic. We built our this amazing region in a floodplain. It's the coastal prairie. It flooded before there was a single human being there. Everything we have done since then has exacerbated that. And we will never be able to completely manage water flow through this region, but we can do a hell of a lot better job. The voters of Harris County essentially with their votes, asked Harris County Flood Control to do some major projects. Mm-hmm. The city of Houston also is embarking on projects. There are, I believe, 34 cities within Harris County that are incorporated. They all have infrastructure, and it needs to be coordinated. It needs to work together. We can't afford to be independent islands. There has to be good communication and good handoffs, and particularly with something as dangerous as floodwaters. We can't afford to, any of the problems that I mentioned, whether it's crime, flooding, or public health, they don't stop at these artificial borders. Mm-hmm. And Harris County is the central authority in terms of dealing with those things. And of course, 2 million people who live in unincorporated Harris County that aren't in one of those in one of those cities. We are their government in Harris County.
Would you say that communication would be the gap that is needed to continue to move forward this type of change?
I bring communication skills, the ability to work collaboratively with folks at different levels of government across the aisle, but also a long-range vision for what is needed throughout Harris County. I don't know everything. What I'm looking forward to is spending the next months visiting as many different communities, associations. Now, this is a partisan race, so a lot of that is going to be Democratic clubs because the first go-round is a Democratic primary. But I have my experience in the region. I have my experience as a public official, but I've also spent some time doing other things. I have a new perspective. I have new ideas. I want to know what the citizens of Harris County really need. And it's not uniform across Harris County, except those big areas affect all of us, and that's going to be my priority.
We are speaking with the former Houston mayor, Annise Parker, who has just announced her candidacy for Harris County Judge. We're interested in what you have to say, your comments, questions. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. The one thing that pops to my mind is that this primary for this particular seat isn't until March 2026. The timing of the announcement today.
In no particular magic to the timing of the announcement, the filing window opens in October and it closes in December. So this is 6 months out from the filing deadline. That's why it started. It's actually, the filing deadline is December 8th, I believe.
Do you think let me just follow up one more thing. Do you think it changes the race now that it's known you're in it? Does that make other people say, maybe not? I mean, this is Annise Parker.
Well, I hope so. but it's also
politician answer.
No, I hope so. But it's also, with all of the uncertainty in the world and all the turmoil, I'm saying, you've counted on me before. You can count on me again. Here I am. I never quit the job. I will do a good job for you, and I will run through the tape. And I think that coming out early and making that statement, I hope will give some peace of mind to folks here in Harris County. But also, if there's someone else who thinks they can do a better job, Harris County deserves our best. Show up and let's prove it.
Now, Elisa Dudd of Piney Point has entered the race. She was the first one, I believe, to come out and say she is the Piney Point mayor, and she is as well running
on the other primary.
On the Republican primary. Yes.
So you've been controller, mayor. You've also
city council member. Don't forget that.
City council member was your first, and you worked for what, Big Oil for a while?
No, actually, mostly I worked for small oil. I worked for Republican oil man Robert Mossbacher for 18 years,
and went to Rice, so that makes you brilliant. So let me ask you this: we've talked on this show several times about the big budget deficits for both the city and the county, and of course all the money that they want to go to law enforcement and fire departments, which no one argues with. But what would you do if you had the opportunity to fix the financial situation?
Already been faced with this opportunity and this same challenge. I took office as mayor in 2009. I ran in 2009, so came in 2010, in the middle of that recession. The mortgage crisis. I laid off more than 700 people across the city. We had to slash our way through the city budget. But at that very first year in office, I went to the voters and had a real conversation about flooding. And I said, we need to create a drainage fund, a dedicated drainage fee for the city of Houston. And they did it. The same conversation. We need to invest in our broken water and sewer lines. And we're going to have to figure out a way we have to pay for it. And so we adjusted water rates and put an escalator in so that we're constantly doing renewal and replacement. I'm not afraid to have real conversations with the public, and nor am I afraid to do painful things inside government. What I need over the next few months is the opportunity to really look under the hood and to figure out the situation. I can't do anything today. And it's going to be, won't be until the beginning of 2027 as the new county judge where I can make these real changes. But I've already demonstrated my ability to do it and my willingness to do it. But what it's going to take is every one of the elected officials in Harris County being upfront and honest about what the real needs are and what the real challenges are. And then we have to get in the room and hash it out.
We had a text that came in that addresses that. They want to know, can she work well with current elected roles, especially the new DA and other commissioners?
I don't know that I have any problem with that. I worked well with everybody in the region when I was mayor. In fact, Steve Raddick, who was former commissioner, no longer a commissioner, certainly a curmudgeon. We did a number of parks deals together where, he was passionate about parks. I'm passionate about parks. I said, would you want to take over these city parks? I'm not territorial. I just want to get the work done.
Mm-hmm. Did you talk to any past?
I can't say the way I usually phrase it on the air, but I just like to get stuff done.
Yeah. Did you talk to any other of the past county judges before making this decision?
Well, y'all know that I teach a class with former county judge Ed Emmett. I taught it last fall, and Rice asked us to come back and do it again. We co-teach a class on public service and why public service matters and how important it is. So he and I have obviously talked about the job. Robert Eccles and I know each other. We've discussed the job in the past, but I didn't go and say, "Hey, I'm running." What should I do first?
Yeah. Our number here is 713-440-8870. Susan from Briar Forest has a question for former mayor. Susan, what's on your mind?
Oh, Mayor Parker, I'm so happy that you made this decision. One of my favorite things to remember about your prior mayorhood was your working with Ed Emmett, and it was such an important time. And it was, I think you were on two different parts of the political roller coaster, but it was so public that you worked beautifully together and got things done, as you say. So that's very exciting. And the number two thing I'm thinking is it's been enough years, so I think you're going to have a lot of young people to introduce yourself to. And there's so much to know about you. But, you're going to have to get out there and tell them the story that you don't have to tell me and some of the old timers, because I remember you and I'm looking forward to you getting back up there.
Susan, thank you.
Doing the county.
Thanks for your call. Thanks for the great comments. And yes, I pride myself on being able to work together with folks, and you are absolutely right. That's why I'm starting early, to be able to have the time to go out and have the conversations. But Greg Abbott and I agree on very few things. But in an emergency, I had no problem calling on him when I was mayor, and he was responsive. I think when it comes down to it, in a crisis situation, we're all Texans. And they know that. Everybody knows that. And if they don't, I'm happy to remind them.
713-440-8870. Oliver from the Galleria. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing today?
What's your question?
So my question is, as a young Houstonian, young people are sick of the status quo. We want change. Why do you think you would be the candidate to bring change to the city of Houston and Harris County?
Thank you, Oliver.
Well, I have never actually run in Harris County or been an elected official in Harris County, but any new person coming in is going to offer new ideas and new energy and some new direction. But I will also say that this is the ability to get things done in politics is all about being good communication, good listening, and to be able to work with others, because you never get all you want in politics. The City of Houston mayor is the strongest strong mayor in the country. A county judge anywhere in the country, you have to work with your commissioners, and there are independent elected officials who have to be part of the conversation. So the question is, I've been out of office 10 years. I'm going to offer myself. I'm going to reintroduce myself. If you like what I have to say and you like my track record, you're going to be interested in my new ideas for Harris County. Give me a chance.
One thing that young people may not know is that you were on the front lines in this city during the AIDS crisis in the 80s, so long ago. And I only bring that up, to commend you, because you were the one that wasn't afraid to take someone in your arms and be their caregiver. But given where the state of health is in this country and vaccine boards being abolished, we could find ourselves in another COVID or HIV crisis in this city.
We could. And while I was mayor, the last flare-up of Ebola in the United States happened here in Texas. But by the grace of God, it happened in Dallas instead of Houston. But that's why you need experience. You need people who understand how to manage a crisis, and we need the institutions here to be able to take up the slack if the federal institutions are going to fail us. You talked about the AIDS crisis. One of the things we built our own institutions. The Montrose Clinic, the Montrose Counseling Center. Montrose Clinic is now Legacy Health, because we could not get what we needed from the federal government. We had to wire around it. I'm afraid we're getting into that point again.
We have another call, 713-440-8870 from Valda in the medical center. Valda, what's your question?
Hi. Understanding that Judge Hidalgo is going to run again, I would like to know what you bring that is so unique and different that justifies you running against another woman. Clearly, I'm an old feminist.
So I'm a feminist as well, and I respect any woman who wants to go into politics, because it is a hard business and it is harder for women. I have no idea whether Judge Hidalgo is going to run or not. I gave her a heads up that I was going to enter into the race. And, because I don't ever sneak up on anybody or surprise anybody. I'm a very straightforward person. But in this moment, I think I have a better experience and better skill set. And I have an ability to work across Harris County in a way that I don't think anybody else has. And it's not about Judge Hidalgo or not Judge Hidalgo. It is about, I want to serve, I can do this job, and I think I can do the best job of anybody who wants to stand up and run.
Former Mayor Anise Parker, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is the best of Hello Houston on News 88.7. I'm Jim Kovacic, the executive producer of the show. And just a quick reminder, you can listen to our live Hello Houston show weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on News 88.7. You can also live stream the show at HoustonPublicMedia.org. If you have any comments about Hello Houston or this best of program, please text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Coming up in the best of Hello Houston, we talk with the director of the Houston Parks Department, Kenneth Allen, about some hidden treasures around the city. This is News 88.7.
I'm Josh Adams, the new general manager of Houston Public Media, and we are here for one reason, you. I'm thrilled to lead this remarkable team dedicated to our mission of informing, educating, and inspiring everyone in the greater Houston area. And yes, these are challenging times, but together we'll meet them head on with bold ideas, honest reporting, and stories that matter. Houston Public Media is your public media. Together, let's make it incredible.
Hey, it's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. This week it's a live event from the sunny climes of Tampa, Florida. From citrus to seafood, Spanish flavors, and Southern charm, we're learning about what makes the food of South Florida so unique. It's coming up on The Splendid Table.
You can catch The Splendid Table every Sunday at 12 noon here on your NPR station, News 88.7.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manus, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
The Houston Parks and Recreation Department oversees 382 parks, encompassing over 25,000 acres across the Houston area. With so many parks to see and explore in Houston, naturally, no pun intended, it can be easy to overlook some hidden gems in the city's park system. With us now to tell us more about Houston's hidden parks is Kenneth Allen, the director of the Houston Parks and Recreation Department. Kenneth, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the time.
Now,
That's a lot of parks.
I was going to say, and you know what? I mean, it's getting hot outside, Kenneth. You know, are these hidden gems shaded? Where should people be?
First, are they air conditioned? Are your parks air conditioned?
No, but talk to us about where they are.
Well, I like to consider every park really a hidden gem. When you think about the type of parks we have and where they're located, 383 parks, some of them regional parks, some of them community parks, pocket parks, and neighborhood parks all over this city. And everybody know about our signature parks, Memorial Park, Discovery Green, Herman Park. You think about those as really, really parks with a lot of different variety. But the hidden gems are actually right smack in the middle of neighborhoods that you would not know the parks are there unless you go into the neighborhoods. So
what really defines a park? How do you define that?
Just green space.
Just green space.
Yes.
Okay. So if there's too much green space, you become controller of it.
That's right. I mean, we have, interesting enough, some of our parks, our pocket parks, are less than 1 acre, but they're valued by communities because they're surrounded by residential areas and people need spaces to recreate and just relax. You think about getting out of your home into a green space. It could be a bench. It could be a pavilion there. They're valued green spaces where people can just relax.
Who comes up with the park? I mean, is it the HOA has to come up with the money, or does the city go in and say, hey, there's a lot for sale, let's make it a park? How does that happen?
Well, our parks traditionally, they're public spaces. So the AOAs and some of the other private groups, that's a separate system. But we'll take it as part of the Houston's park system, but all the public parks are really land that's been created, that's been donated, that's been bought with partners. We look at the entire landscape of the city, and things change from year to year, decade to decade. Our goal is to have a park within a 10-minute walk.
Otherwise people won't use it. I mean, it's got to be close. No, that's the rule about gyms. If your gym isn't within a 10-minute drive, you're not going to go.
That's right. Okay, my big concern about parks, sorry, Celeste, urban wildlife. I am petrified of so many things that are out there. A rule for people when you're in a park, it's their park too, that wildlife, and how to treat respectfully.
Absolutely. We have the ecosystem and the animals that actually live in our parks. We have two major, actually quite a few to be honest. Lake Houston Wilderness Park is an example of a wilderness that we have. It's 5,000-acre park with a lot of different outdoor amenities. You have all type of animals that live in the park with campers and with visitors. So there are certain things we do internally to ensure public safety and the safety of the animals in the ecosystem. We have a naturalist division, and our park naturalists and our forester take care of all the open spaces.
Well, to Ernie's point, are dogs allowed in all parks?
Yes.
They are, huh?
Dogs are allowed, but we request citizens to put them on a leash.
And what about picking up after them, too?
Yes.
I request that in my front yard.
Now, Kenneth, I want to zoom out a little bit. And how does Houston compare to other major metropolitan areas when it comes to green space? How are we doing?
That's a great question. If you look across the city, there's 100 cities, most populated cities that Houston has been compared to. From the Trust of Public Land, they're releasing a report pretty soon on park equity, on park investment, on acreage. We stand about average right now, but work with partners are certainly improving that. You think about all the Buffalo Bayou and all the Lanier parks, all the good work from the Buffalo Bayou Partnership and the Houston Parks Board. We have about 190 miles of trails connected now. But those are also parks. So that's enhanced our inventory. And so we're always looking at ways to make sure there's plenty of green space.
Are the arboretums around town, are those considered parks?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Any green area. Right?
Well, I mean, is it under your authority? It's really my question. Like the Houston Arboretum.
Technically,
or Mercer Arboretum.
We own the land, but it's operated and maintained by other organizations like the Arboretum, the Botanic Garden off of Buffalo Bayou. I'm sorry. It's actually Southeast Houston off of 45. I don't know if you guys have been there, but that's a great green space. Yeah. And then we have the Arboretum at Memorial Park. And then we have some other nature areas, 26 nature areas that we're protecting under a nature preserve ordinance. So nice. All over the place.
All right, my little story is going to build to a bigger question, but I live right near the Bethel Church Park. Yes. And lovely place to go. But what I've noticed over the last few years, gates went up and it's locked most of the time. Which brings me to the security and how you keep these parks rich and looking well without vandalism and homelessness or folks loitering in these parks. The challenges that you folks face there, and how do you balance between access to the community but keeping the parks clean and safe?
That's a great question. Bethel is nestled into a nice, tight space. People were using that park as a dog park and not picking up their litter. So we petitioned it off, and it's used by permit, and it's open at certain times.
How do we find out those schedules, not just for Bethel, but for any of the parks? My mom and her caregivers used to like to take her over there and sit there, but then all the gates are up and they can't quite do that anymore.
Yeah, you can permit the park or look at schedules at our website, houstonparks.org, and it will tell you just every park within this city and our rules and regulations and who to contact if you want information on it.
What do you mean by permitting the park too?
You could permit like Bethel. There's a lot of weddings there.
So you can ask to
yes.
use the park at a certain time. Okay.
Now, Kenneth, you mentioned some of the more known parks like Memorial Park or Discovery Green. What are some of the hidden gems that you think people should know about?
And don't say they're all hidden gems. We heard that already.
Right. One great park that people may not know a lot about because it's north near New Caney is Lake Houston Wilderness Park. I mentioned it earlier. It's a 5,000-acre park. There's a lot of trail systems, hiking. There's cycling and biking. It's the only park in this city where there's overnight camping opportunities. So whether you want a lodge, a tent, or a TP, we have those opportunities. Also, it has the capability of handling RVs and in areas that's designated along the park. We have a nature center there where you can learn what type of animals dwell in the park as well. An archery range, fishing area. It's just it's a jewel that not a lot of people really know about, but it's there and it's vibrant.
Do you get a lot of action at the Buffalo Bayou cisterns, the underground cistern park?
Buffalo Bayou, downtown in White Oak? Oh, yeah.
And with summer coming up, what are some places and programs for families that you think people should know about?
Our number one, I think, summer opportunity is swimming. We have 38 pools, 37 because Tidwell Pool is down for renovation. But we'll have 31 operating pools throughout for this summer, and it's fast approaching. On May 25th, we're going to open all 37, and it's the first time in 4 years that we're able to open that many pools because of COVID, because of a lifeguard shortage. But that's number one, I think.
So swimming pools, not in the bayou.
Yes, not in the bayou.
You'll encounter that wildlife you don't want to encounter, too.
But with aquatics, you have Learn to Swim, free opportunity for youth and adults. You have our water fitness program that's happening, our Learn to Swim program that's happening in various sites. And that schedule is also on our website.
The website again?
Yeah.
It's HoustonParks.org.
And you're saying that these swimming lessons are free?
Yes.
That is huge.
That is
because
huge.
Every parent knows that camps and lessons are very expensive. So, yeah.
Yes. Number two opportunity. I mean, we have several. I know I'll be on the show all day if I told you everything, but the two most important are, we serve kids, of course, during the summer, is our summer enrichment program. We'll be operating that at 39 sites this summer, where kids could check in at 8 o'clock and the parents can pick them up at 6. And we operate by standards of care.
Sounds like my
Can you do that for the elderly, too? I have a mom that I'd like to drop off.
Kenneth, one last time, where can people find out this information?
At HoustonParks.org.
Kenneth Allen is the director of the Houston Parks and Recreation Department. Kenneth, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
This is the best of Hello Houston on News 88.7. I'm Jim Kovacic, the executive producer of the show. And just a quick reminder, you can listen to our live Hello Houston show weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on News 88.7. You can also live stream the show at HoustonPublicMedia.org. If you have any comments about Hello Houston or this best of program, please text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Coming up on the best of Hello Houston, Ernie Manous talks with resident alien star Sarah Tomko. This is News 88.7.
Houston Public Media brings to you PBS World. Experience the personal connection behind the headlines with programming devoted to telling stories that humanize complex issues. PBS World on TV 8.6 and online at HoustonPublicMedia.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from St. Luke's Health and the St. Luke's Foundation, supporting clinical excellence, compassionate care, and a healthier future for all. More at supportstlukes.org.
It can be hard to stay informed about what's happening in our city, our state, and across the country.
That's why Houston Public Media makes it easier.
Everything you hear on News 88.7 is powered by you, not advertisers. 80% of our funding comes from our Houston community.
That's what makes public media different. It's community funded and always here for you when you need it.
Join that community now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
This is the best of Hello Houston on News 88.7. I'm Jim Kovacic, the executive producer of the show. And just a quick reminder, you can listen to our live Hello Houston show weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on News 88.7. You can also live stream the show at houstonpublicmedia.org. If you have any comments about Hello Houston or this best of program, please text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to the best of Hello Houston on News 88.7 with Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Sarah, a joy to have you with us. What I'm so excited about is, I've said this before, oftentimes there's a lot of material out there I don't follow. I am so thrilled. Resident Alien is one of the shows I really enjoy.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I love talking to people that do know the show, that love the show. I also love talking to people who don't know the show so I can introduce them to it. Just very appreciative of anybody who's taking the time to watch the show when there's so much content out there.
It's a fun show. It defies explanation because it is funny, but it's serious. It's mysterious. And so I'm curious, as a performer, being in that world, there are things your character doesn't know, but there are things Sarah knows as the actor, knowing the property you're working on, knowing from ahead. How do you play so you don't overplay things that are hints to the audience that maybe they need to pay attention to, but you don't want to overplay it? Where's that balance? How do you work that?
That's a great question. One of my favorite things to do is when I get the script, we usually get together and do like a table read, and then I get rid of everything in the script that has nothing to do with me, because I like to watch the show like everyone else as a fan. For example, in season 3 for our big finale, I completely forgot like who finds out what and how they have these cliffhangers for their characters, and I was just as floored as everybody else. I have too much going on with my character. I just need to focus on that. So I think in terms of your question, the easiest way for me to take away the Sarah and just bring in the Asta is to be totally, honestly, authentically in the world that I'm in when I'm shooting, and to really not know the information until it's given to me.
Yeah.
And it's, sure, I know a lot of things about my own character, but again, I like to just kind of get rid of everybody else's story so I don't know. That helps. But I also just think there's something really powerful and playful, like clown work. There's a purity there of really in the moment finding something out, and there's a pinch in the ouch of that hitting you and having to explore that reaction. And it's one of my favorite parts of acting.
Because it's comical but also serious in moments, how do you find how to present the character? What's too broad and what's too drawn back in a show like this, which I think would be a very challenging balance act to find?
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I mean, it is a very tender balance between comedy and drama. I think in season 1 it was a lot darker, and they started to really lean more towards the comedy in season 2 and 3. But I think my role as Asta is to come in and be just truthful and the straight man, really. I don't have to do as much comedy as my cohorts. So I get to just come and listen and react and just be honest to my own self and to my own story. And it leaves room for there to be just truth in both comedy and drama. It's funny because it's true. It's sad because it's true. And I think that's why it's so relatable to so many people, because there's something for everyone. And it's not just slapstick comedy. There also is really heartfelt, meaningful moments in the show that Asta really is at the forefront of, and I'm so grateful for that, because that's really my bread and butter.
Yeah.
I'm not the comedian.
How did you come to be in this? And what did you know of Resident Alien when you first were either auditioning or told of this part?
I was given the cover of the Resident Alien graphic novel, the comic book, written by Peter Hogan, and I saw the picture of Asta and Harry on the cover, and I remember thinking, she looks like me. Like, really, like the nose and the eyes. I don't know. There was something about the way she was drawn that I felt very, drawn to. And I just thought, well, this is really cool to be going out for something that's already out there, but is going to be interpreted in a new, fresh way on TV. And when I read the script, it was one of the scenes from the pilot episode, and she was full of anger and resentment. And at that time in my life, so was I. I had a lot going on in my personal life, so I really understood her. And I really didn't have to put too much on it. And it was a wonderful audition, which turned into a booking. But as you know, with pilots, you never know if the show's going to get picked up. So I was just grateful to go from waitressing to being a series regular for 2 seconds to going back to waitressing for a whole year before we actually got picked up for season 1. By the time I got to play Asta in full, I had lived such a full year of excitement and fear and doubt that I was able to just jump right into where she was at in her world and really just, sign right up and get right to it.
Somewhere I saw you said advice to people who want to get in this business or are in the business and trying to make a go of it. You said, get a day job you really enjoy. So while you're following this, and you mentioned waitressing, and you really enjoyed being a waitress.
Yeah, I think the career is the jobs that you that support you while you're auditioning. That's the career. And then if those jobs become acting jobs, well, yay, that worked out. But the career is mind, body, spirit, staying aligned with yourself and with your true reality and having a bunch of really great auditions. And you just, honestly, it's a win when you go into the casting room and have a good audition. If you book the job, it's a bonus. There's so much that goes into the acting world that there really isn't acting left over until you finally just get to say action and go. The rest of the time, there's so many business aspects, so much doubt and fear about what you're doing and, if you're doing enough. And so I think it's so important that also you have something to monetarily support you on the side, because acting isn't always going to be a monetary, successful adventure. It's definitely going to leave you like the hustler that you are. All actors are hustlers. We got to do what we got to do to make money. So if you can find something that makes you happy, that fulfills you, that is flexible with your schedule so you can continue auditioning, that is where your career is going to thrive. Because if you're not worrying about booking a job for money, then you can book a job for soul. And that's really where I think the best bookings come from.
Yeah. Talking about hustling, is it true, not hustling necessarily, but kind of forcing your family to be in plays that you were creating as a child?
It's funny. I never forced them to be involved, but I did make them watch me. I forced them to be the audience. My brothers and I have a great relationships, but when we were younger, I really wanted to play sports, and they were older and, they wanted to just play with the boys. So I would play with them by playing around them. I was the coach and the fans and the popcorn man. I remember going to my brother's football game, and there was one of those coolers that had the cool, square 3D print at the top, and I would pretend I was a secretary of a CEO. I mean, I was constantly in imaginary circumstance. But my brothers were also, as they got older, they were into theater. We all were singers. So I was just reviewing a home video recently where we did a play for my parents' 25th anniversary. We like wrote a skit and pretended to be my parents in a car trip. So there was a lot of creativity in my family, but it was never forced. It was always just, that's the way it is with the Tomkos.
Yeah. When you go to these cons and you get these opportunities to see fans, what surprises you about either what they ask or how they relate to what your work has been?
My favorite part about meeting fans is them being completely honest with why they're watching the show and how it affects them, mostly in a meaningful way. I've had a lot of people tell me, you know, it was the one show I was watching when my mom had cancer, and it was the one thing that kept her laughing. Or a fan that will say, you know, I was really down and out, and it was the only thing I felt like putting on my TV. That interaction is so meaningful to me, especially since I was in the worst place in my life when I did this audition, and it ended up being the best thing that had ever happened to me. So I can really relate to people watching television and feeling like they're your friends and feeling like they're not alone. Honestly, it's been one of the biggest goals in my career is to reach you through your living room and make you feel seen and heard. And so when I get that feedback from audiences that say, I do feel seen and heard, especially by your character, it means the world to me. So fan interaction is what it's all about.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of these cons? Does it take up a good deal of time?
I'm just starting out. Alan is the big ticket seller, as you know. He's so popular and so talented, especially in the sci-fi world. So he's got a lot of fans. But as the show is growing, we, about 2 years ago, started getting conventions that were reaching out saying, we'd like to have more of you at these conventions. And frankly, I didn't really know anything about them. I knew of them, but I thought it was something you did when you've had more success or down the line. I mean, I've gotten a chance to meet some of the people from Lord of the Rings and Star Trek, and so I was just sort of like, I'm around these people that I'm a little bit geeky about. This is so fun. But now it's fun to see that there are people that are geeky about me, and it's just this wonderful, like, circular, like, joy fest that these cons have been. So this is probably maybe my 4th or 5th convention, and I'm still a little baby, learning the steps and like learning the ins and outs. My favorite thing is when fans tell me about like the different things that they wear, or the stickers they give, or the gifts they give out to each other. And it's just so fun to learn each con's like through line of gifts and toys and fun.
I've done some little voiceover work for anime, and I've always joked, I just want one character that connects, that in the rest of my life I can go to cons and sit there and sign autographs and meet the fans.
Honestly, it still could happen, because voiceover is such a wonderful world where you can still be found that way. And I've seen a lot of voiceover artists at these conventions that have long lines of people who are really like love their voice, love their work. So, hey, it could happen.
Sarah Tomko, thank you so much. And Resident Alien, let's hope for a 5th season. That's what, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
And that wraps up this edition of the Best of Hello Houston. I'm Jim Kovacic, the executive producer of the show. And of course, I got to thank the Hello Houston team. Garrett Bowman, William Mentivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and our hosts Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Houston Public Media is a service of the University of Houston and is supported with your gifts to the Houston Public Media Foundation. More information available online at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Hi, this is Steve Inskeep with NPR's Morning Edition, which reminds you of the power of one human voice. You turn on the radio some morning or your device and you're listening to Morning Edition and you hear one person telling a story from the other side of the world or from a neighborhood near you. And that voice brings you understanding of the news. Listen to Morning Edition every day.
Weekdays 5 till 9 a.m. on News 88.7. Your NPR station, News 88.7 KUHF Houston, a service of the University of Houston. Get local and breaking news anytime at houstonpublicmedia.org. Listen to us on your favorite devices. Tell your smart speaker to play News 88.7.
It's the Splendid Table from APM, American Public Media. I'm Francis Lamb. You know, most people go to Florida for the sun, the beaches, the theme parks. But you should probably think about going there for the food, too.
Seafood is the OG Florida food. So you start out with the raw ingredient of seafood, and then you overlay that with all the different cultures that live here in Florida. So you get these different sort of artistic or cultural expressions of seafood. Things like, Bahamian conch fritters or bacalao or, Southern style shrimp and grits. And so I think seafood will always represent Florida better than any other food group.
That's Delia Colon, host of the Florida food podcast, The Zest. And we're spending this week in Tampa to learn why South Florida food is so special. It's coming up on the Splendid Table.
Is next. Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. The Senate is expected this afternoon to begin debating the multi-trillion-dollar tax cut and spending bill that includes much of President Trump's legislative agenda. A vote could come tomorrow. NPR's Mara Liasson reports President Trump has made it clear the bill must pass, and that's likely to happen.
But it's hard to imagine that the current Republican majority in Congress will vote against the president. Almost everything, his entire legislative agenda, is packed into this one bill, and there's no president in modern times who's had a firmer grip on his party than Donald Trump. And he issued a statement over the weekend that makes this very personal. He said, quote, "Failure to pass this bill would be the ultimate betrayal." So in other words, Republicans vote against this at their political risk.
NPR's Mara Liasson. President Trump says his administration should prosecute the leakers of an intelligence assessment on the U.S. strikes in Iran. As NPR's Luke Garrett reports, that top-secret analysis casts doubt on Trump's claims that the U.S. attack destroyed Iranian nuclear facilities.
President Trump is doubling down, saying Iranian nuclear sites were obliterated, despite the preliminary intelligence report that says it's unclear how much damage was done to Iran's nuclear capabilities. Trump tells Fox News whoever leaked this report should face legal consequences.
They should be prosecuted.
The president suggests forcing the journalist who first reported the intelligence assessment to give up the names of sources.
They could find out easily. You go up and tell the reporter, national security, who gave it. You have to do that. And I suspect we'll be doing things like that.
Meanwhile, the White House is planning to limit intelligence sharing with Congress. Trump has blamed congressional Democrats for the leak. Luke Garrett, NPR News, Washington.
Israeli security cabinet officials are meeting with the Israeli military today, reportedly to discuss how to end the war in Gaza. NPR's Hadil Al-Shelchi reports.
The Israeli military is expected to present Israel's security cabinet with strategies on how to reach a partial hostage deal in Gaza, or a full deal that would see all the hostages released, according to a person familiar with the matter who was not authorized to speak to the media. Israel's senior minister Ron Dermer is also expected to travel to the U.S. this week to prepare for a potential visit by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to Washington, D.C. Netanyahu is expected to meet with President Trump to discuss a Gaza ceasefire. Netanyahu is also expected in Israeli court tomorrow. He's on trial for corruption cases and fraud. He denies any wrongdoing, and Trump has called the trials a, quote, witch hunt. Hadil Al-Shalchi, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
Ukrainian officials say Russia launched its biggest aerial attack of the war overnight, involving 537 weapons. Officials say at least 2 people were killed. This is NPR News in Washington. The last pro-democracy party in Hong Kong is disbanding. The League of Social Democrats announced the decision today, saying it's been under intense political pressure after China imposed a national security law 5 years ago. Many leading activists have been prosecuted or jailed since then. Media outlets critical of the government have been shut down. Some of the final lawsuits have been settled, emanating from the fatal accident during the filming of the Alec Baldwin film Rust. Steve Futterman has more.
It occurred more than 3 years ago.
Had two people accidentally shot on a movie set by a prop gun. We need help immediately.
A gun held by actor Alec Baldwin went off, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Since then, there have been a series of trials and lawsuits. 3 crew members have now reached a settlement in a negligence lawsuit against the producers, including Baldwin. Terms of the settlement have not been released. Baldwin was criminally charged with involuntary manslaughter, but the case was dismissed. The film's armorer was found guilty and served 14 months in prison. There are still several civil suits pending, including one from the family of Helena Hutchins and one from Alec Baldwin. He is suing prosecutors for malicious prosecution. For NPR News, I'm Steve Futterman in Los Angeles.
In tennis, Wimbledon opens tomorrow. There are 4 American women in the top 10, including 21-year-old Coco Gauff, who won the French Open. On the men's side, Carlos Alcaraz of Spain is the favorite. He won the past 2 years. I'm Nora Rahm, NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include FJC, a foundation of donor-advised funds working to maximize the impact of charitable giving and to create customized philanthropic solutions. Learn more at fjc.org.
The Splendid Table is supported by Made in Cookware. Made in Cookware is crafted by chefs for use in restaurants and home kitchens around the world. Their cookware can be found at madeincookware.com. I'm Francis Lamb, and this is The Splendid Table from APM.